Conclusions and generalizations. What is meant by a conclusion? What is a conclusion? A conclusion is the opinion you have or what you think after looking at all the information and facts about something. So it's something that you have by the end of a part of the story, but considering all the information and all the events about a part of the story or about something. What is meant by a generalization? A generalization, it's a type of a conclusion. They are statements that are true most of the time. So after having a conclusion, after looking at all the information and facts, you could make a generalization, which is a statement or an information that is true most of the time. Drawing conclusions and making generalizations will help you reach a complete understanding of the story. So while reading the story, when you make conclusions and form generalizations, this will help you to understand the events of the story better and to reach a complete understanding of the story. So let's take a look at these two sentences in page 271. I heard another cheer from the men on the ship. That's when Mr. Meekins and Mr. Pooh were heading to the ship. Mr. Meekins was swinging the heaving stick and line. Mr. Meekins was swinging the rope and throwing it on the deck of the ship. What clues from the text help you conclude why the men cheered? What details in the text help you reach a conclusion to guess or to understand why the men were cheering? Actually, the text states that Mr. Meekins was swinging the heaving stick and line. Mr. Meekins was swinging the rope and throwing it on the deck of the ship. So they must be cheered because they will be rescued soon. So the sailors on the ship now, they know that they will be rescued soon, and that's why they were cheering. So these details, they help me to reach the conclusion that why they were cheering. What generalization can you make based on that detail? What generalization can you make after reaching that conclusion? People always cheer to show happiness or encouragement when they are so excited or when they are happy. And that's true. The sailors on the ship, they were cheering and screaming because they were so excited and they were so happy that they will be saved soon and that Mr. Meekins and Mr. Pooh, they made it to them. And as Mr. Meekins and Mr. Pooh were coming back with something small in their hands other than a sailor, Nathan was asking himself what could be more important to save off that ship other than the lives of the men on the board? What could be more important than the lives of the men on the board? Nathan could hear what sounded like a squalling of an alley cat. He heard something that sounded like the noise or the crying of a cat. And Mr. Meekins, he gave the thing that he was carrying to the men on the land, and then Nathan discovered that the thing that they brought from the ship was a little child. Nathan tried to help the little child. He was trying to get his wet clothes off, but the little child were crying and asking for his mother. Actually, Nathan was so scared. He was thinking, what if his mother had already been washed overboard and drowned? What if his mother was dead? And Nathan told the child, your mama is coming. And after that, they wrapped the boy in a dry blanket. By the time his mother came running to him, Nathan and the other men, they were helping her, Mrs. Gardiner, the mother, and her child. When they heard someone crying, this man is injured. So there was another sailor coming back from the wrecked ship, and he was injured. And now my question is, what did the author compare the screaming child to? The author compared the screaming child to the squalling of a cat, the crying or the loud cries of the cat. What does it mean? It means that the child's crying is loud. And why do you think the author chose that comparison? Why did the author made such comparison? To help the readers understand that the sound is loud and unexpected. What about the illustrations or the picture in page 273? What do the illustrations in the story show? They show how much the mother loves and fears for her child, and also the lightning in the background adds a scary tone to this part of the story. The bad weather and the lightning in the background, it adds a little bit scary tone to the story, a little bit scary atmosphere. The author's point of view. As we said before, all stories are told from a certain point of view, from the point of view of someone. Who is telling the story? Nathan. And Nathan is a character in the story. So, from what point of view do you think the story is written? The story is written in the first point of view. So, when a character from the story, or when a character inside the story tells the story, so the story must be written in the first person point of view. How does the first person point of view affect the readers? Actually, when a story is told from a character's point of view, or from the first person point of view, we as readers can see everything from Nathan's point of view, according to what he thinks. We only know what he thinks and not what the other characters are thinking of. So, how do you think the story would change if it was told from Mr. Meekin's point of view? If the story was told from another character's point of view, from Mr. Meekin's point of view instead of Nathan's, how would the story change to us as readers? The readers, or we, wouldn't be able to know what was going on between Nathan and the child, because Mr. Meekins is still in the water, saving the rest of the sailors in the ship, and the story would be more focused on what's happening inside the water. We would be able to know what's happening inside the water, not what was happening on the land, on the shore. The next page. As I said earlier, a surfman was crying that there's an injured man. A young sailor had been just delivered by the surfman. The surfman had just brought another young sailor. The blood dripped from his head and strained his life preserver. His lips were blue and he collapsed on the land. He couldn't even walk. Mr. Bowser, one of the surfmen, he asked Nathan to come and help him, and Nathan asked him, treat the bleeding first. Let's stop the bleeding and let's stop the blood first, and then treat the hypothermia. What is the hypothermia? It is the low temperature of the body. So Nathan said that as he remembered the words from the medical books he studied. He asked Mr. Bowser to treat the bleeding first, and after that they will see what they can do about his low body temperature. That's when Mr. Bowser told him, wow, you did study well, Nathan. Yeah, it looks like you read your books well. It looks like you studied your books really well. After that, Mrs. Gardner and Mr. Bowser were trying to take off the man's wet clothes in order to get him warm, and then they bundled him or covered him in a dry blanket. So, how do you think Nathan learned about treating the bleeding and the hypothermia? How did he learn about that? He recalled, or he remembered, these information from the medical books he studied. How do you think Nathan's skills might be different from those of the other surfmen? How he would be different from the other life-saving crew? Nathan has medical knowledge, and this is different from the other surfmen who are strong and physically skilled. So Nathan has medical knowledge, the other surfmen are strong and physically skilled, and that's how they are different, or they have different skills. The next page, there was some problem with holding the ropes, and that's when Mr. Bowser asked Nathan to come and help her by telling him, take over here, I'm sure you know what to do. Nathan's hands felt clammy and shaky. He was scared. He wasn't sure that he was able to help her. But once again, he remembered the words from the medical books he studied, and he remembered to rub the legs of the sailor with oil until his body gets warm. So Nathan powered Arthur the sailor, the injured sailor. He looked at him and asked Mrs. Gardiner, he's too young to be a doctor, right? But she replied, he seems to know what to do, dear. He really knows what he is doing. And after that, Arthur said, I'm warming up. So Nathan managed to make his body warm up. So let's check these two sentences. Mr. Bowser grasped me by the arms. Take over here. I'm sure you know what to do. This will warm you, sir. Let's move to the characterization. Before explaining these two sentences, let's know what is meant by characterization. Actually, characterization is how the author uses the character's actions, words, and thoughts to let the readers know more about their personality and to bring the characters to life. So, characterization is how the author uses the actions of the characters and the thoughts and the words of the characters to let the readers know more about their personalities and to bring the characters to life. So, how do you think the author let the readers know that Nathan wasn't sure he could help? Earlier in the story, Nathan said he wasn't sure he is brave enough to walk into the waves like the other surfmen, and this is characterization. The author uses these words to let the readers know that Nathan is not sure that he could help. What details did the author give to show that Nathan is helpful after all, that Nathan is really helpful after that? Mr. Bowser said to Nathan, I'm sure you know what to do. And Nathan said to the injured sailor, this will warm you, sir. So this is also characterization. The author used these words to let the readers know that Nathan is helpful. So let me remind you again, the words that the author used to let us know more about Nathan, what do we call this? We call it characterization. The last page. Just then a tall white man appeared dressed in a captain's coat, so the captain was saved. His long hair flying in the wind, he reached up into the driving cart and pulled Mrs. Gardiner to him, and he must his cheek against hers. So Mrs. Gardiner is his wife. He must have asked about Thomas. He asked about the little baby because she pointed to him bundled and sleeping in the cart. Then the captain cried, they have saved the whole crew, he cried. He looked around at me and Arthur and the other rescued sailor and the surfmen who were now gathering around the driving cart in preparation for the long trip back through the storm to the station. My good men, he said, his voice shaking, we owe you our lives. The captain thanked them and he was very grateful that they saved the whole crew, and now the surfmen were preparing themselves to get back through the storm to their station. So what does the picture show you about how the characters are feeling? What does the previous picture show you about the characters feeling? The picture shows that the captain is grateful and that the surfmen are proud of what they did. So the picture shows that the captain is grateful, he's very thankful for the surfmen, and that also the surfmen are proud of what they did. What do you think would have happened if the surfmen hadn't helped them? Of course, the ship would have smashed and they would be probably died. What part of the text tells you that the captain is grateful? What details in the text tell you that the captain is thankful and grateful to the surfmen? The captain said, they have saved the whole crew, and my good men, we owe you our lives. How is the beginning scene different from the final scene? At the beginning, people are in danger, but by the end, all the people are safe. And this is how the two scenes are different. Now let's move to the conclusions and generalization projectable. So please get your projectable worksheet ready and get yourselves ready to fill it in with me. In this projectable, we are going to use the details in the text to reach a conclusion or to form an opinion after looking at the details and the information in that text. So detail number 1, Nathan has always wanted to save people's life. Detail number 2, Nathan is determined and he works hard when things are getting difficult. Detail number 3, Nathan has studied medical books and life-saving skills. So what conclusion or what opinion can we reach or form after considering all these details? That Nathan will attain his goal to help people. That Nathan will reach his goal to help people. And that's what really happened in that story. That's it for today. Thank you so much. As a quick reminder, you should have read the text before watching this video. So in case you haven't, I ask you to read the text and then to watch the video one more time. Thank you so much, and don't forget to stay safe.